Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point on AFR Talk, free for all Father's Day Friday, taking calls from listeners on what your father has meant to you, some favorite memory of your father, some way in which you want to honor your father, something about your father that's worthy of imitation that you learned from him. It could be a whole range of stuff, just some kind of positive memory you have of your dad. So let's grab a couple of phone calls to start off this segment on that topic. Let's go to Kelly in Bryan, Texas. Kelly, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hot. It is a hot day in Texas.
Well, we're going to have one of those here too.
I guess a story or whatever about my dad is when I was probably 14, 15-ish, young teenager, I was pretty, I guess, angry at the world. There was a lot of stuff I just didn't understand, and my dad kind of caught on to the fact that, a friggin' video game is setting off a time bomb in this kid. There's something bugging at him. And so my dad sat down one night. I was completely oblivious to this, but he sat down one night and wrote me out, it was probably a 3 or 4 page letter. And then the next day he gave it to me and he said, son, I want you to take it every day when you get a chance, and I want you to just kind of get by yourself, and I want you to read this. And I read out the note and everything, and it basically said that, he knows I'm angry, but there's a way to fix it. He used multiple quotes from the Bible. Like, my dad is big, avid churchgoer, major Christian influence in my life. He used quotes from, I want to say it's Proverbs 16:31, better a patient man than a warrior who takes a city, and stuff along the lines of, how's it go, a soft tongue can break hard bones and all this.
Yeah.
And really, it really brought me to Christ, and it changed my life.
Fantastic.
And, that's the best memory I have of my dad. I mean,
and that is so great, Kelly, and that is so great for you to honor your father in that way. Praise God for your dad. Praise God that you have a relationship with God and that you're moving forward. I just sense the depth of your love and appreciation for your father in your voice. And by the way, that's a good suggestion for dads. I've had occasion to do that with both of my children at critical junctures in their lives. Sometimes the best way to communicate what's on your heart is in the form of a letter where you can craft it. You can make sure it says exactly what you want it to say. You can make sure it reflects your heart, reflects the love and the message that you want to communicate. You can write it. You can sit on it for a day or two, make sure it says what you want it to say. And then it gives them an opportunity, just like it happened with Kelly here, to kind of read it on their leisure at a quiet time. Conversations can get kind of high intensity, can get high-pitched where people aren't listening to each other. But a letter is something that you can read. You can be alone with yourself. You can be alone with the content of the letter. You can ponder on it. You can reflect on it. You can come back to it, and you can reread it. And a lot of times a letter can be a very, very powerful way to communicate your love for your children. Well, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that very much. And your father be very honored to know what you have said about him today. Well, let's go to Paul in Lawton, Oklahoma. Paul, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Thank you, Brian, for taking my call.
You bet.
Your passion for what you do is tremendous, and God bless you for that.
Thank you very much.
I'll tell you right up front, my story is may sound odd to some people, but if you just hear the context of it, maybe you can understand what a tremendous impact it's had on me. 40 years ago, my father passed away, but I was active duty Army at the time, and I was coming home for my 10-year high school reunion. And my father was very, very ill. He had spent 36 years in the coal mines, and he was dying of black lung and tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was well past midnight as I was coming through the small town on the way to my home, which was out in the country, and I knew most of my siblings. Oh, by the way, this is part of the context. I have 7 brothers and 7 sisters.
Wow.
And all of them were still living at that time, and most of them, not all of them, but most of them had been home or were home at the time because of Dad's illness. And it was, like I said, it was real late, and I was driving through that little town, and I thought, I should go ahead and stop. And I did, because I was going to be there the next morning to visit with my dad. And but anyway, something told me to stop and go in and see if Dad was awake. I could just visit with him. And I'm the baby boy of all of those kids. And I went in, and it was back in the days where visitors to sick patients were very restricted.
Mm-hmm.
So my older sister said, hey, I was called Butch then. Butch is here. Let him go back and visit with Dad. And everybody else came out. And I went into that room. Bear with me.
That's okay. Take your time.
I went in that room by myself, and I sat down in a chair beside of Dad. And he was awake. He was alert. He knew full well what he was talking about. And I must tell you that he was a tremendous Christian man. He was a God-fearing man, and he taught that to all of us, all the time. All my life, I was raised in a strong Christian home. So I knew how precious Jesus Christ was to him. But anyway, we held hands, and I was just sitting there talking to him, and he apologized to me for something he said to me when I was 10 years old.
Hmm.
And I had forgot that. I dearly loved my father, and I had forgot that. And I said, Dad, that's you don't owe me an apology. And it was a odd little thing. I kissed him on the forehead before I'd go to bed. And at 10, he felt I was an old enough young man to quit doing that. And I fell asleep crying that night.
Wow.
And my mama made it all okay. She always did. But anyway, Dad talked to me and shared with me about his life. And he said, son, I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to meeting Jesus Christ. And the odd part is I cherish the moment that he chose me out of 15 kids to say his farewell. And he closed his eyes and went to be with the Lord.
Wow.
And 40 years later, my love and my compassion for my father is tremendous. And I thank God for him every day. So it's an odd story, but it's heartfelt.
Well, I can tell, Paul, and I appreciate very much your call. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for calling and sharing that story. And you can hear it just in the tone of Paul's voice how much that meant to him, that memory. And that was 20 years ago that happened. And yet the memory's still fresh and powerful and sweet. That's the impact of a father on a son. Well, thank you for that call. I appreciate that. Let's take one more before we go to the break. Let's go to Chris in Crossett, Arkansas. Chris, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Talk to us about your dad.
Yes, Brian. I'm a first-time caller. I've listened quite frequently, and this time you really sparked an interest in me to give you a call.
Great. I'm glad you did.
I guess I kind of need to go back a little bit in time. My mother and my biological father divorced when I was just a baby, and for a few years my mom was single. Met a man here in Crossett, and the two of them fell in love, and didn't take long. They decided to get married, and but he recognized the fact that I was in need of a father, and decided that's what he wanted to be. So he adopted me was about 4 years old. And they had another son. My brother is about 6 years younger than me, and he had never treated him any different than he did me. He would always take time out with both of us to do special things, always take time out to be able to show us that he cared for all three of us. And last year, he ended up with cancer of the liver, and about 3 weeks into it, he went downhill pretty quickly. At that time, they began to call in some of the family. I went to work. He told me to go ahead and go on to work one day. I went to work, and that morning I felt led by the Spirit to begin to pray for him, and that's what I did. I broke down right there at work and began to cry and said, Lord, if it's your will for him to remain here, then heal him, but heal him quick.
Mm-hmm.
If it's your will for him to go and be with you, then go ahead and allow him to go. But either way you do it, make it so that he doesn't suffer.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 minutes later, I got the phone call that I needed to get to the hospital, that he was gone. And I was able to go in and just to say my last goodbyes. But one thing further than that, I got to preach the funeral.
Well, that's an honor.
It was really tough there, of course, but I had the privilege of knowing that I was not only his son, but I was his pastor at the end. And there's a lot of good memories.
All right, Chris. Well, listen, and thank you for sharing some of those memories with us. I appreciate that very, very much, and you have a great Father's Day yourself. Thanks, Chris, Crossett, Arkansas. We'll be back with more content. Stay with us. You are listening to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.